Handheld Mario games have almost always been 2D. From Super Mario Land on the Game Boy to New Super Mario Bros. On the DS, people never really expected a full 3D Mario game to be released on a handheld. The only time it ever happened was with Super Mario 64 DS, and that was a remake. But in 2011, all of that would change with the release of Nintendo's most powerful handheld yet, the 3DS. This system was able to achieve graphics on par with the GameCube, and in 2011, this was a pretty big deal for Nintendo. And although the system may not have launched with it, the 3DS would see the release of the first fully original handheld 3D Mario game, the very appropriately titled Super Mario 3D Land. Developed by the same team responsible for both Super Mario Galaxy games, Super Mario 3D Land was designed to bridge the gap between 2D and 3D Mario games. Ever since Super Mario 64, the difference between 2D and 3D Mario has been night and day. 3D Mario games are about adventure, open level design, and pure creativity, while 2D Mario games, on the other hand, are more traditional. The formula has stayed pretty much the same since its inception back in 1985, with the release of Super Mario Bros. On the NES. But with this game, Nintendo wanted to change that. By combining elements from both 2D and 3D Mario, they were essentially able to create what producer Shigeru Miyamoto describes as a 3D Mario that plays like a 2D Mario game. Along with bridging the gap between 2D and 3D Mario, Super Mario 3D Land was also created to take advantage of the 3DS's new 3D effect. By flicking the slider on the side of the system, you're more easily able to tell the distance and location of different things on the screen. Throughout development, the team wanted to take full advantage of this and designed a lot of the levels in the game around this 3D effect. I guess it sucks that Nintendo gave up on the 3D gimmick halfway through the system's lifetime. Failed console gimmicks aside though, after a 2-year development period from mid-2009 to mid-2011, Super Mario 3D Land was released here in North America on November 13th, 2011. Super Mario 3D Land opens up with a violent storm. We see Peach's castle in the background, but the main focus here is on this tree, which seems to have tanuki leaves flying off it. The next morning, Mario and some toads come across the tree and find a letter floating around nearby. Upon opening it up, they find out that the unthinkable has happened. Bowser kidnapped Peach. Mario is clearly shaken as this has never happened before, and runs off to go find Bowser. This opening is fine, but it really feels more like a 2D Mario opening rather than a 3D one, which is probably what they were going for anyway. After the opening, we're introduced to the world map, which is just a straight line. I don't think this ruins the game in any way at all, it's just kinda weird. Like, even the new Super Mario Bros. Games had more interesting world maps than this. And often they even had split paths that would lead to different levels. Considering this game's short development period though, they probably were strictly focused on gameplay and level design, and other elements like the opening and world map were just thrown together last second and made as simple as possible. Jumping into the first level though, it's great. The stage introduces the big returning power-up of this game, the Tanuki Leaf. Functioning pretty much the exact same way as it did in Mario 3, but now in 3D. The power-up feels amazing. It feels so natural to control, and I absolutely love that instead of introducing a brand new power-up that would most likely get old really quick, they decided to return to one we hadn't seen used in decades, and showed just how well it translates into 3D. The Tanuki Leaf isn't the only thing this first level reintroduces though. Almost immediately after collecting it, you'll notice a star coin. And similar to every Mario game before it that's featured star coins, each level has 3 of them spread all throughout to collect. Star coins are by far my favorite part of 3D Land. Even though I've 100%ed this game on multiple occasions, when I went back and played through it for this video, I just couldn't stop collecting them. And by the time I ended up beating the game, I'd collected every single star coin you could get in the main story. The reason this game works so well in 3D is because of the star coins. Without them, you would have no reason to explore the level, and your goal would just be to rush to the end of the stage. The game understands the importance of star coins as well, as in some cases they are literally required to move on. You will get so much more out of this game's levels by exploring them and finding their secrets. Exploration has always been a staple of 3D Mario games, and 3D Land incorporates that aspect incredibly well with its star coins. And on the topic of the levels in 3D Land, they're just as amazing as the star coins. I was genuinely amazed at how creative and enjoyable all the stages were, even after playing through this game so many times. 3D Land without a doubt features some of the absolute best Mario stages of all time, and I want to specifically highlight some of the ones from the main game I enjoyed the most. Starting off with 2-3. This stage revolves around platforming across and exploring giant 8-bit sprites from the original Super Mario Bros. Game. You start off on an 8-bit Mario and eventually make your way across many other iconic sprites like the Super Mushrooms and Princess Peaches. You can also find a hidden 8-bit Luigi if you spin this tail wheel at the beginning. I love how it takes Mario's shoe pixels and puts them on Luigi, so the transition feels seamless in a sense. The end of the stage even features a recreation of Super Mario Bros. 1-1 ending, complete with the original level end theme and everything. But moving on from the nostalgic 2-3, we have the open-ended 3-1. This level is unique because of, well, its openness. You're set loose in this small desert area with a giant tower at its center, and have the option to either explore the outside of the place, or use the cannon to scale the tower. To me, this level gives big Mario Galaxy vibes. It feels like a planet you would travel to in some sort of desert-themed galaxy, and I love it for that. It's also very clear this stage was meant to be explored, as your timer has an extra 200 seconds added onto it, encouraging that. The outside has a bunch of enemies to avoid, but also a bunch of secrets to find. You have this music note section, and even a hidden star coin behind some bricks. I absolutely love how different this stage is from all the rest in the game. It uses open-ended level design as its gimmick, which is just so cool. Even once you're inside the tower, that open-ended level design is still pretty prevalent, with the inside offering some different paths at times. Moving on though, we have easily one of the coolest levels in the game, 5-2. This stage is heavily inspired by the 2D Zelda series with its fixed top-down camera angle and more Zelda dungeon-esque layout. Even just the layout alone being inspired by 2D Zelda would have been enough to make this stage stand out. But the fact that they fully embrace the inspiration and design parts of the level similar to how Zelda dungeons work is incredible. I mean, just look at some of the star coins. The first one is hidden away in this small area you can barely see, which I can only imagine is referencing the bombable walls in Zelda 1 that were impossible to tell apart. The second involves using a fire flower to light torches, obviously referencing a common Zelda series trope, even playing the iconic puzzle solve jingle. This level seamlessly blends both the Zelda and Mario formulas together to create a level that I absolutely love. Last up for this section, we have my personal favorite stage in the game, 7-4. This one takes place inside a giant clock. Very reminiscent of Tick-Tock Clock from Super Mario 64, but in my opinion, done a lot better than that level. Almost every aspect of the stage is always moving, and you have to time your platforming to be in tune with that rhythm. I love how unique this entire stage is. It never overuses a single concept, and constantly introduces new ones throughout its short runtime. It also has a completely unique song made for it that fits it so well. I used to constantly replay this one all the time when I was younger. I love how creative it is. The levels in this game are amazing. Each one features a unique concept, and each one fleshes out that concept incredibly well. Similar to Luigi U, there isn't a level in this game that I disliked. It really feels like a lot of time was put into making them as creative and well thought out as they could be. The little details present in some of these stages make them so special, and although some of them may be short, I would so much rather that than a longer level that's just filled with pre-used concept and filler to pad out the length of the game. The reason the level design works so well in 3D Land is because of its creativity. Where most 2D Mario games have levels designed around the world they take place in, like how a snow world has snow levels or a jungle world has jungle levels, 3D Land's levels don't care about having or following a distinct theme for their world. They're just unique. One of the best examples of this is a stage in World 8. This stage is filled with green grass, happy music, and a vibrant forest below, while the world map for World 8 shows that it's filled with lava and volcanoes. So sure, world and level theming is good, yes, but 3D Land understands that its main focus is level design, and doesn't hold back well-designed levels just because it doesn't adhere to a certain theme. Moving on from the levels though, I want to talk about something that 3D Land handles really well: perception. As you probably know, one of the defining features of the 3DS was its stereoscopic 3D. With the flick of a slider, you were able to see the world in a whole new way. And while this 3D effect certainly helped all throughout the game, offering more depth to the areas you were exploring, this effect is best used in the game's optical illusion areas, where it may seem like a block is in a certain position, but after turning the 3D effect on, you realize it's in a completely different location. And although I can't really show how the 3D effect works and you'll just have to take my word for it, the use of 3D in this game is heavily underappreciated and works extraordinarily well. At the end of every world in this game, there's either a castle or an airship. In most cases, it's an airship, but in World 1, 5, and 8, it's a castle. These airship and castles are some of the coolest parts of the game, not only in their level design, but also their boss fights. World 1 and 5's castle levels are a lot of fun. It's so cool to see a Bowser's castle level in 3D, and the fights with Bowser himself are a ton of fun. He's so gigantic in scale to Mario, and really feels threatening at times. The airship levels, though, are where this game really gets good. They're designed so well and a lot of fun to platform through. The first is very simple. You're not doing anything crazy, but rather getting well adjusted to how an airship level works in 3D. The second one, though, is amazing. It involves avoiding skewers, spikes, and bob-ombs. It's so much more open than the previous, and really takes advantage of the fact that the game is 3D. At the end of each of these airship levels, you fight a boss. At first it's Boom Boom, and he actually translates really well into 3D. And honestly, he's done better in this game than he is in New Super Mario Bros. U. I love how he goes into a shell and tries to attack you instead of just sitting there like he does in other Mario games. After you beat Boom Boom a few times though, you're introduced to a new boss enemy, Pom Pom. Instead of spinning around barbarically like Boom Boom, Pom Pom is more calculated, shooting shurikens and homing in on the player with her shell. I love the introduction of Pom Pom. I find it so lame when a boss is constantly reused throughout a game, so 3D Land introducing a completely new boss enemy halfway throughout its runtime really freshens things up. Pom Pom's fights are a lot more interesting than Boom Boom's, and I absolutely love seeing her return in this game's sequel, Super Mario 3D World. And while Boom Boom's and Pom Pom's fights on their own were great, World 7's airship takes things to the next level, and pits you against both of them at the same time. This fight is genuinely difficult at points, and the two work really well together in battle. It's hard to avoid both of their attacks at the same time due to how differently they act. But after defeating Boom Boom and Pom Pom for good, and making your way through the final world of the main game, World 8, you're met with what seems to be the final level of the game, 8-Bowser. To even get into this stage, you need 90 star coins, which is a lot. Jumping into the level itself though, it's incredible. You have the two Magic Koopas on you right as you start the level. There's an arrow platform section where you have to use them to cross a lake all while the Magmargs rise up from below. The stage features a lot of different elements that are put together incredibly well and combine to make a level that the player will always remember. The real highlight of this stage though has to be the Bowser fight. It's very similar to the last two before it, but just a little more fleshed out and difficult enough to make it feel fresh. After defeating Bowser here though, you quickly learn that this wasn't the true final fight, as he does whatever this is and makes his escape with Peach in hand. I'm so glad this wasn't the final fight because while yes it works well as a Bowser fight, it absolutely does not work well as a final Bowser fight. It's way too similar to the ones before it and not extravagant or epic like most final Bowser fights are. On to the real final level though, I cannot stress enough how good it is. The entire stage takes place on a spine coaster, with the level opening with the spine coaster going right into a giant Bowser mouth. This stage is both a spectacle and a difficult challenge. The entire time I'm playing it, I want to look around at the scenery and appreciate Bowser's giant castle. But constantly the level has you narrowly avoiding fireballs that shoot out from the walls. The end of the stage even has you quickly swerving back and forth as the onslaught of fireballs gets even more crazy. The absolute best part of this stage though is its length. It's incredibly short, but the spine coaster ride is way more fun this way. As if it was any longer, it would definitely have started to drag on and get boring. This final level is one of the best examples of 3D Land understanding the importance of concise level design. If a stage works better short, then make it short. Runtime is not a defining factor in what makes a game good. Just look at Bowser's Fury. Moving on though, after making your way through the spine coaster and shooting your way up to Bowser's Tower, you're on the doorstep of one of the greatest final fights in Mario history. After falling down with Mario as well, Bowser does everything in his power to try to stop you. He shoots fireballs, throws spikes, and even throws barrels like he's Donkey Kong. You'll never be him, Bowser. This fight is more of a platforming challenge than a battle, and it works really well because of that. I love how after you flip the switch and make him fall into the lava, he just shows up 5 minutes later like nothing happened. This time shooting even more powerful fireballs as the entire stage crumbles with each new jump you make. All of this culminates to the final section, a chase sequence where Bowser dashes at Mario at full speed. All while you have to avoid bricks that you have less than a second to react to. This whole chase scene is incredibly tense, and by far one of the coolest final sequences in Mario history. Upon the defeat of Bowser, the sky clears and Mario is finally able to rescue Peach. And right after doing so, makes use of the Tanuki leaf and flies off with her back to the Mushroom Kingdom, bringing a wonderful end to this incredible game. But surely this game couldn't get any better than this, right?
Help me!
Oh, but it can. After beating the game, you don't only unlock one special world, but 8 special worlds, doubling the amount of courses in this game. These special worlds feature remixed courses from that of the main game, and also sometimes entirely new courses. The remixed courses are a lot of fun, and genuinely are different enough from the courses they originate from to feel fresh. You also unlock the ability to play as Luigi once you beat the first special world castle, which is absolutely amazing. The levels in these special worlds offer a great challenge and introduce so many ideas to pre-existing levels, and overall create one of the absolute best post-games of any Mario game. I strongly recommend you try out these special world levels if you never have. They are very much worth it. Underrated. That is the best word I can use to describe Super Mario 3D Land. This game features such a beautiful mess of unique and creative ideas that combine together to create some of the best level design the Mario series has to offer. Constantly throughout this game, you'll be surprised at just how many new ideas it manages to have. Even in just the first world alone, 3D Land consistently introduces, fleshes out, and moves on to a multitude of different ideas. When I first planned to go back and play 3D Land for this video, I was very skeptical. I mean, sure, I grew up with this game and remembered loving it to death, but it had been almost 4 years since I properly sat down and played through it. What if it didn't live up to how I perceived it when I was younger? To my surprise though, I was so wrong to be skeptical about this game. Everything from 1-1 to the final Bowser fight is so cleverly crafted and well thought out that I almost feel bad for forgetting about it for a few years. If you've never played this game before, I really hope this video has convinced you to at least try it. Not only is this one of the best 3DS games, it's one of the best Mario games. I can confidently say without a doubt in the world that Super Mario 3D Land is an absolute masterpiece.